had me climbing over poles and beanbags and all sorts of stuff, and I made it out. Let's hear it for Art. That was great. And yes, let's all get very excited about Amplify, because today is different. This is not just a Vision for Innovation session. It is actually a product launch of Bullhorn Amplify, and we're super excited about it. It has been an incredibly fast 12 months. So Jason and I are going to spend a couple of minutes, give a little bit of context, talk about how we got here, and then we're going to explain Amplify in detail, and we're also going to show you the highlights. The reality is there's way more to show you than we have time to show you. So you can also go out into the Bullhorn Hub, you can go to the Tech Talks, you can go to all the demos after this, and you can start to dig into Amplify, and it's going to be super exciting. After that, we are going to bring up Will Hayes, who is a customer, and we're going to have a little fireside chat and talk a little bit about his AI journey, which is going to be fantastic. So let's get going.
All right, let's do it. So we're going to go back a little bit more than 12 months to talk about our first step with AI, which is really all about automation. And all of us have been on this journey for 5, 10 years. It's been some time. And what's so great about it is it helps us with AI, but it's helped everybody all along the way. And our customers, all of you are getting tremendous amount of value from it. We've got 3.5 billion automations that we've done in the last 12 months. 60% of our customers are using automation, and our customers who use an automation are 36% more productive than the ones that don't. So it's laid the foundation, but it's also, again, it's just delivering tremendous value to you and your customers. Then we had our 3 waves of AI in like 12 months. So hold on. Wave 1 was all about assistance, right? It was all things that helped you and your team to do tasks, do things more quickly. It was just an assistant. And those were really powerful, but they also really helped us to learn about AI and what was hype, what's reality, and what we can really use them for.
Totally. And then came the second wave, this wave 2, which happened very shortly after wave 1. And this is all about agentic AI. Everybody hears the term agentic AI. What is that really? The assistants are helping recruiters do things faster, easier, better, right? They're assisting in driving recruiter productivity. Whereas you have agents, and those things are actually doing tasks, and in many cases stringing a whole bunch of tasks together to perform a function or a job. We released our agentic AI version just a few months ago. We are already up to 115 million AI actions. When you look between the customers that are using AI assistants and AI agents, we have 700 customers total. And the reason that's gone so fast is exactly what Jason has said. You've already set the groundwork. You've already automated a lot of your processes with automation. And so as we started to AI enable automation and create these agents, we were able to integrate them really nicely into the solution that you're already using to automate your business process. So they autonomously today, our agentic AI version autonomously sort of runs the top of the funnel, right? And so you basically go from turning it on for a job, and this is sort of what Art was saying, and you have these agents automatically sourcing, automatically matching, automatically screening, and so the recruiter doesn't get involved until way, way, way later. They get involved only now when there's qualified candidates. That's like a fundamental sort of paradigm shift, right? So if a recruiter's making 10 phone calls, before these agents, they were maybe finding one person that was the right fit for a job. But now, because the agents are finding the right and most qualified people, 10 phone calls yields 5 or 6 or maybe even 7 people that are the right fit. So it would stand to reason that KPIs improve and productivity improves, and that is exactly what we've seen with our customers.
Yeah, so what do we see? A lot of great outcomes, basically. And so our customers that have implemented AI, they are working more jobs. So they've got 51% more qualified candidates per job. So they're finding more candidates. They're then submitting them faster. So because we're finding higher quality candidates and more of them, we can move and submit them to our customer faster. And then again, because they've got this extra time or because they're working jobs they couldn't have before, they're working 31% more jobs have a submission. That's like a massive number. 30% more jobs have a submission, and you actually have the chance of making a placement, which all this leads to a 22% higher fill rate. So there's tons of opportunity here. And all of this is on top of the foundation that was that. I mentioned the 36% with automation. This is on top of that. And I know you're all kind of thinking like, these are really big numbers. This seems like a lot of stuff. Like, is this really possible? Can I do this? I think we would say the answer is yes, it's certainly possible. And yes, you can do it. And this is why we thought it was so important to bring Will up from IDR, because he's going to really sit in your seat and tell how he was able to do it, because it's not just the software, right? There's a lot of change that goes into it.
The other thing that we found as we have been doing all of this stuff is that the talent likes it a lot more than one would imagine the talent would actually like the experience. And Jason and I do this webinar series. I don't know if you guys ever listened to it, but we talked about the talent experience last time. And there's this fallacy that the talent doesn't want to talk or interact with AI, and that's just not true. We've done hundreds of thousands, if not millions of screens. We've got a good 10,000 plus candidates that are responding, and they give it a 4.2 out of 5 rating. And why is that? It's because they're comparing it to the other experience, which is they hear nothing. It goes into a black hole. That's actually the common experience that talent actually has. And so when you give them the opportunity and you say, okay, well, instead of the black hole, I apply to a job, I get to state my case, and I get to talk to an AI agent, 90% of them are like, yes, I would like to do that again. So I bring this up only to say, I talk to a lot of customers who say this is holding them back. They're worried about the experience. It should not hold you back. If anything, you should lean into it, because the talent's spoken pretty loudly about this, and they prefer the experience over the other experience.
Yes. All right, so that's waves 1 and 2. Now we're on to wave 3, and this is Amplify. And this is taking all the best of each of those, taking all the assistants, taking the automation framework, taking the agents, blending them all together into a single solution that you're able to leverage. And I don't know if you can tell, this is like a chart. I don't know exactly what your numbers are gonna be. We know it's 36% with automation. Maybe your people are gonna be twice as effective, maybe it's 3 times effective, but the number's gonna go up and to the right, and we're all gonna figure it out together, and that's what Amplify is gonna help us to do.
Totally. So I guess now for the 3rd time we're announcing Bullhorn Amplify. So Bullhorn Amplify. Look, it really is a massive leap forward, and when we show it to you, there's a bunch of reasons for that, and we're gonna show you all of it. But as Art was saying, it is this collection of all those agents. So the reason that we just talked about those agents and what they do is because they are part of Amplify. They are part of that foundation. And those agents are going to be running in the background, but you're also going to be able to deploy those agents from directly in the workflow. And now you have a solution in Amplify that actually behaves and acts like a recruiter, which is fundamentally different. And we're going to show you all of that. It's super great.
Yeah, so we're gonna run through these skills today. So these are the 7 core tenets of Amplify as it exists right now. We're gonna keep adding them, but just to quickly run through them, the source, first step, helps you to identify candidates from Bullhorn and around the web. Once you've found them, it's gonna automate the process of matching the best, putting them into whatever automation campaign you might have, possibly screening them, so doing that virtual AI conversation with your candidates. And then we turn it over to submit.
So you get your source, your match, your screen, and then submit. So last year at Engage, I don't know if you remember, but we talked about a submission workflow assistant using our AI assistants. And the feedback we got from customers was actually, we don't really want help with the workflow. We want help building really great submission packets, making them easy to format, and having that be really simple. And so we're gonna show you that today with the submit skill. It's actually called Amplify Present. It's this whole UI that allows you to do that and control it, map to templates and stuff. It's very, very, very cool. And then on the sales side of things, we're actually leaning into the sales side a lot more than we have previously. We spent a lot of time focusing our AI on the recruitment side of things, but this is the year where we're gonna do that, but we're gonna do more. We're really gonna focus on sales, so you'll see a bunch of that today. One of the skills, and Art was sort of alluding to it, is this research skill. So it's really, really hard to know everything that's happening in an account, right? You know this. It takes forever to sort through it. You got all these emails, and you got all these notes, and you have all these job history and submission history, and so if you're preparing for a meeting, it's very difficult. You have all the data, it's unstructured, and you don't really know how to make sense of it. Awesome use case for AI and a skill that Amplify has. And then the present side on the client side of things too, where if you're doing candidate marketing, the same sort of concept of building these really great submission packets on the recruitment side also applies on the sales side. Oops, I'm sorry, that one was my fault.
And then we've got the outreach, and this is the one that I think is most exciting. This is basically the ability to allow your teams to create their own multi-step campaigns and have full control by your sales team, but do it in a way that's optimized with AI. So it embeds all of your best practices, writes messages for you automatically, but always has your sales team in the loop, because what we heard very loud and clear, we don't want automation sending messages on behalf of our sales reps to our clients like we do for candidates. We want them to have more control. So this gives them that control, and we'll walk through how they set that up.
Totally. So you got Amplify, it's got all these agents that we talked about, it's got all these skills that we talked about. There's a couple more things that are super, super important. And this one is, it is embedded everywhere. It is deeply infused in the software. This is the thing that is fundamentally new. You have the ability to now chat with Bullhorn through Amplify the same way you would with ChatGPT. We're gonna show you the chat interface. You have the ability to deploy agents, whether it's a sourcing agent or a screening agent or whatever it might be, to deploy them directly from within your workflow. And the thing that's the most important, you may not know it, but your jobs are actually changing. Because of this, you now need to manage and supervise agents. You're gonna go ask them to do a whole bunch of stuff. You gotta make sure that they're doing the right things, and you have to know when to intervene. And so there's this whole concept of dashboards specific to Amplify that allow you to manage those agents as you deploy them throughout the workflow.
And you can still put it in autonomous mode. So you still have the ability for your team to go in, use it, but you can always put it on auto drive and still run it in the background, whether that's for maybe lower margin jobs, whether it's for VMS roles. You have the ability to pick and choose.
Yeah, I think this is an important point because it's an and, not an or, right? So you may have certain jobs, this is how we see customers doing this today, where you say, okay, I've got a bill rate under a certain amount, or it's coming from a certain VMS, and I don't even want to put a recruiter on that. I just want to have Amplify go and do that for me and automatically start doing the sourcing and the matching and the screening. You can only get me involved if there's somebody that's placeable, right? You have one set of jobs that look like that, and then you have another that you actually want to have it deeply embedded in the workflow. And so you have the opportunity and the ability to do both of those things. Also, this is really exciting. We are bringing, if you are a Bullhorn Recruitment Cloud customer, we are bringing Amplify to Salesforce. So all of these agents that we're talking about, you have those agents and then you have Agentforce on Salesforce. We are bringing Amplify to Salesforce as a result of that. And you are able to deploy agents on Salesforce in the same way using Agentforce. So it's a different set of tools, but you should expect the same outcomes to be true whether or not you're doing it on Bullhorn platform or you are doing it on Salesforce. And so here's how I think we should think about it. Amplify is fundamentally additive, right? Jason mentioned 3.5 billion automations that we've done through the platform. There's no way that a human was ever gonna do 3.5 billion things. And like Art was saying, there's no way that a human is ever gonna be able to reply to every single person that applies to a job. It's not possible. And so what you have is this concept of human labor blending really seamlessly with digital labor. So you've got the recruiters and the salespeople, the human labor, that are able to do their thing, and then you have this extended reach from all of this AI that, as Art was saying, is sort of unbound by time. It's just off doing its thing. And you bring those two things together, and that's how you actually get this next step of compounding productivity. That's the way I think we should think about it as we go into the demo. So with that, let's take a look.
Demo time.
Demo time.
All right. So we're going to kick it off with a job. So this is your kind of your normal Bullhorn. You can see we've got Amplify recommending jobs. We've got our nice new shiny button up top. And then whenever we hit that, it's similar to how the assistant works today, but it's much more proactive for you. So it's going to immediately give you the key things that you want to know. It gives you some of the key stats about it. It's going to give you a quick overview, and it's going to suggest what you should do next. So it's going to make recommendations and kind of guide your team along the process. But you still have the ability to do whatever you want, of course. So if I click into this, I can start to type and I can just chat with it, or you can pick from our set of actions that have all been pre-built. So these are the things that you know you want your team to do regularly. Some of these come from us, already built, but you've got the ability to control your own. So that's all still available for them, your recruiters to kind of do generative capabilities. But let's say that we want to go ahead and take the suggestion, and we want to look at these top 25 candidates. So this, again, it's not just a chat, it's all embedded. So when I click on that, it's just going to jump me over to the top candidates. And from here, you can see this is our new search. So we talked about this last year, but everybody's gotten an upgrade to their search. Looks better, it's faster, it's all optimized, and it's all integrated in with our AI tool.
Totally, so you're gonna see a few things. Again, we don't have time to go through every single thing. There is a deep search and match demo that y'all can do after this, but a couple of highlights that I think are really important. The first is you can clearly see the relevancy in the ranking. Between last engage and this engage, we also acquired text kernel. We now have the ability to improve our ranking with all of text kernel's models, plus if you remember last year, we talked about our sea of data and all these machine learning models that we have at Bullhorn. Those two things have combined now to create this incredibly accurate ranking. And so you'll see that on there. That's one of the really cool AI, the Amplify things we have in there. And the other is if you open up the actual search itself, there's a few things I want to call your attention to. The first is this concept of auto building. And so when you open up a search, if you are trying to create a search for a job, you don't have to create the search anymore. You can let Amplify do that. You can literally plug in the job and it will create the search for you. So this is this concept of like, okay, how can you make your junior recruiters significantly more productive? Well, this is a really great way to do it. You don't have to teach them how to do any search. You can just plug in the job and it automatically builds the search. We also know at the same time though, that people may want to change it. So you can still do that. It's not an either or. You can still go and make changes. You can add keywords, remove them, et cetera. And this is all of developed a source breaker and text kernel in Bullhorn, all the taxonomies, all the keyword expansion, all these things have come together into a nice, clean, single interface for you. The other thing you see on there is this boost candidates. And this boost candidates thing, there's a few things in here. I think this is really cool because we know there are certain things that are signals. For example, if you have done a screen and you did really well on the screen, pop you up a little bit higher on the list, right? If you've had recent activity or you've been an employee of ours and been placed recently, pop you up higher on the list. And the one at the top that I really like is, you may be, how does this actually work? This recent positive reference. So I like this one for a couple of reasons. We have a product called Data Hub, which is where all of our marketplace partners, all the Bullhorn products, are all storing their data in a singular place. And our initial vision was, hey, let's get the entire ecosystem and the whole platform to store data in one spot so that we can make our analytics that much better and that much more complete. And then we said, wait a minute, there's a couple of really cool use cases if we can actually include that data in our AI and in our models. And so I love this one because we've got a marketplace partner, Ref Assured, they're out there capturing references at scale. What's better than a first-hand reference to help you understand how good a certain candidate is? So you don't have to rely just on resumes or past activity. You can actually now boost the candidate in the search based on a recent positive reference. So that's a really, I think, a good example of the power of the platform and what happens when you start to pull the marketplace data in with all of the Bullhorn products and you start to do more than just analyze that and use it for reporting, you start to drive it through the actual workflow.
All right. So that was a great search.
Thank you.
You crushed it. I want to save this and I want to keep it running. So this is kind of the next thing we'll be talking about is kind of the sourcing agent. This is just where you can, when you find a search that you like, you can save it, have it automatically run, and those candidates will either be, you'll be notified when candidates match, or if it's an external board, they'll just be added right to the system. So it's really like having an offshore recruiter curating your list for you and building your database without having people go in and do it. And then...
It's a pretty simple explanation for something kind of cool. Like
It's
one
just
click
that
of a
simple.
button, and it's not like you have to come back in to the app to go and take a look at those candidates. You can then include them in automation and you can drive a whole bunch of automated processes from that. It really is like having a person out there just doing all that work for you. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, a lot of opportunity there for sure. And then so, we're gonna go back though. So we're still working this job. So we got our new project management role. I've got to fill this. So I, as a recruiter, maybe I went through, analyzed some of these people. I think these are the top ones for the role. So I'm gonna select them and then now I'm gonna invite them to a screen.
I'll point that out there. It's kind of hidden up at the top. You can just directly add them to a screening agent directly from a list. Another example of how we're bringing these things directly into the workflow. This screen should look pretty familiar after you have done that. It looks a lot like adding a submission inside of Bullhorn, but now you have all the screening questions over here as well. We're gonna actually show you a really quick demo of how the screening agent works from the talent experience perspective. Before we do though, what's really great about this is we're also using Amplify to generate the screening questions. It does a much better job than a junior recruiter. It's really easy. It looks at the job and it automatically generates the questions. You can have them be, for a technical job, they can be technical. They don't have to be. It's pretty good. You also have a bunch of default questions that you may want to ask in a certain, for a certain job or ask every time, which we'll show you too. Those are there. So what you're looking at now is you're saying, okay, I've got these candidates that I want to automatically invite to a screen. These are the questions. If you want to go to the job and edit the questions, you can do that. And then with the click of a button to just add a screening agent, off you go. And it's going to send messages and try to actually conduct the screening on behalf of you as the recruiter to those candidates that you've selected.
Yeah, and that's just gonna run in the background. It's gonna automatically send them emails, text messages, whatever medium you want. Usually we have people send 3 or 4 of those.
This slide looks familiar.
Yeah, you remember this one? It's actually, it doesn't say start screening, it says you job. This is our job, right? So we send the message, it's gonna be in their inbox, so they can take this screen whenever they want. We're just not like we're not like a spam robo-dialer calling them. It's gonna allow them to take it on their leisure, and they just hit the start screening button, and it's gonna kick that off. So I think we've got a quick video to show what that's gonna look like. You can see it's gonna open this on your website. So it opens on top of the job on your website. It's gonna ask some basics questions. So we don't need to have a voice agent say, are you authorized to work in the United States? What's your salary? It's gonna ask those, they just tap the buttons, and it's gonna write those answers right back to Bullhorn. Then they get ready for the screen, and our virtual recruiter will jump in and start to talk to them. Have a quick listen.
Hello, this is Alice, an AI agent for Acme Recruiting. We want to further understand your background and experience. Can you describe a complex project you've managed from start to finish? What methodologies did you use?
So that was that question we configured. Now
Yes, one recent complex project that I led with implementing a new CRM system and I implemented that across 3 departments with over 100 users.
All right.
That's great to hear about your experience. Could you share more details about the methodologies you used during the implementation of the CRM system?
So we're not
Your
going to do a
approach
full
to managing
demo.
such a complex project.
I really want to listen to that for like 3 or 4
We
minutes.
can listen to the full 10 minutes if you'd like some other time. But what we want to call out here is it's not just asking the list. It asks the one that we configured on the job, but it's going to ask intelligent follow-ups to make sure that you get a complete response from this candidate. So it goes through that whole process. The candidate can ask questions, and then they're only routed. Your recruiters are only get the best candidates. So only those that score well will actually be sent to your recruiters.
Totally. So this was an example of one job and one candidate. But what's really happening is that this is working thousands of jobs. It's working millions of candidates all at once. The agents are out matching, they're out screening, they're sourcing on your behalf. That is Amplify. And all of these interactions so far are happening without human involvement. Now imagine that's happening not just for one recruiter, but that's now happening across your entire business. And it's happening for every recruiter. That is how you scale this, and that is how you get the reach. And so what's really happening in the background, I'm going to ask us now to sort of conceptually fast forward a little bit, because maybe the recruiter is off doing something else at this point in time.
Working another job.
Right? They're working another job. They're doing something else. Yet these agents are still running. So you have all of these people being matched and all these people applying and all of these people being screened, and your dashboard is just filling up over time. So just in our minds, let's fast forward 12 hours or something, and let's come in, and I mentioned this concept of managing the agents. Let's come in and take a look at what a new Amplify dashboard looks like on a job. So here you have got that bird's eye view of the progress on the top of the agents. These are agents that are just doing things for you. You can see where they're at. You can also see in this particular example that we were hoping to have 5 submissions over that period of time. We only have 3. There's a little icon to draw your attention to it and say, hey, maybe there's something else you need to go and do. You can see all the suggested actions that you should go and take, and you can see the screening questions, which I already told you about, and then you can see the candidates that have all been screened and the score that they got. And it's drawing your attention very clearly to folks like Jane and Nina and Louise that an action should be taken for them. So, want to open up Jane, shall we?
Yeah. All right, yeah, so because Jane scored great on her screen but hasn't been spoken to, she's the one we called out. So we can see here, remember this screen? This is much like the one from the job. Again, this is all configurable. So right now, whenever I come to a profile, I want to see, again, a quick overview. I want to see a little bit about the person, a little bit about my communication history with them, and I want to see the recommended actions. Again, because you just took a screen, it's saying, hey, maybe you should look at the screening report. So we're going to click that. And this is going to give you the overview. So this is after the virtual recruiter spoke with this candidate, it's going to create a report for me that tells me exactly what I need to learn from this candidate, where I should focus, why they're a good fit, why they aren't. So instead, the first conversation I have with the candidate, it's not like it's maybe more get to know you. It's not asking the basic questions. It's all about understanding if they're really interested in the job, closing them on the role, getting them on the right pay rate, and then moving them through the process.
Totally. Okay. So now we can go in. Whoa.
Jane is a great project manager. She doesn't write a great
Yes,
resume.
that is a terrible resume. It looks like Wingdings or whatever. I don't know what font that is, but that's pretty rough.
Papyrus, I think.
Papyrus, yeah. So we mentioned this Amplify Present concept. So there's a bunch of stuff that's going on in the background here that, again, you can go out into the hub later and see how this actually works. But you've got all of these different packets that you have configured. And what you all have actually said to us is, I really need your help making these big, beautiful packets. Big packets, beautiful packets. I heard that you make the best
you've ever
packets.
seen. You haven't seen packets like this.
Nobody makes a better packet. So you have all these really big, beautiful packets, and what's really happening is you have all of these instructions, okay? You have all these instructions, and you've created these templates, and you're saying, take that horrible looking resume and use generative AI to create a beautiful resume, and just do it with the click of a button. Brand it, maybe even pull in other supporting documents that you want to put in the submission packet, like a driver's license or a credential or something like that, right? So you configure all of that stuff, and now there's this UI where you can interact with it. Personally, I think this is the coolest part. And so not only does it look better and is it fitted to the, formatted to the template that you have, but you can start interacting with it. So you can highlight something here, and you can say, okay, I want to give it an instruction. I don't want the summary to look like that for this particular resume. I'd rather it be bullet points. You type it out, and you end up with bullet points. So you have the ability really quick to create the packets and then to manage them and interact with them and save yourself just a whole bunch of time with Amplify and the present skill.
Yeah, maybe just for our light industrial customers or those that don't leverage the resume as much, you don't have to start with a resume. You can start with any of the information you've got in Bullhorn, funnel it right into whatever you want your presentation to the client to look like, and it's gonna load it up.
Totally.
All right, so that's our recruiting vignettes. This is how we think you can use Amplify to dramatically change your recruiting process and integrate AI throughout it all. Again, we need to talk about sales though. Obviously, Art showed our picture about the climate's not awesome, and the way to solve that is with you, right? We need to give you the tools to help you react to a market like this.
Totally. Let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it. Do it.
All right, so let's say I've been notified, Bill's a client of ours, he hasn't given us a job in 3-6 months. So I got a notification. I go in, again, we've got our summary here. As soon as I come in, it tells me what's going on, what I need to do, and it gives me a quick overview of all of the recent activity. I'm spotting some issues here. Our relationship isn't great. We've got some bumpy roads. We've got a poor sentiment score. I think we need to dig in a little bit more on this one. So I don't want to go just at them. I don't want to pitch it. I need to learn more. So we're going to go through and summarize the last 12 months of our conversations.
So I'd like maybe just take 2 seconds on this because this is pretty cool because you can actually configure what shows up here. And one of the things that we're trying to kind of like have a balance between, yes, you want to allow recruiters and salespeople to chat with Amplify, but you also don't want people to have to type the obvious things that you know that they want to do, right? And so you can configure the prompts and sort of think of it like a saved search. If you build a great search and you want other people to be able to use it, go ahead and do that, and then it shows up down there. And this is an example of that. Don't force an account manager to say, please summarize the last 12 months. Just have it be really obvious. They click on the button. And then, all of a sudden, you get that nice summary. So you read it for a second, and you go, okay, yeah, something is not right here, right? There's decreasing sentiment. We used to place a whole bunch of people with Bill, but we don't actually do that anymore. So I'm gonna go ahead and take some actions here. But before I do that, I do wanna show you the chatting thing really quick, because I think that's pretty cool. Maybe I wanna find something personal about Bill to include in my outreach to him. I know I have to go talk to him. So maybe somewhere in the thousands of emails and all of the notes and all of the correspondence that we have with Bill, there's something that is buried in there that I might be able to use when I reach out to him in a personal way. Okay, here you go. Here are some personal insights I found out about Bill. In several past calls, he has mentioned he is a fan of the Boston Celtics. We now know why Bill is not happy. We have figured it out. So I've now got this insight here about Bill. Jason said this a couple of times. We're also driving you through the workflow. It's not just a chat and then you got to go somewhere else to do the workflow. You have a bunch of actions that are here too. So if you want to add them to an outreach campaign, or you want to send the content of the chat right into a message, you want to update a field, you can do all of those things. In this case, we're going to go ahead and add Bill to an outreach campaign. We're going to try to engage him.
Yeah, Bill's probably going to be a little tough to lock down, so we're going to try to send him a few messages. So this is that Amplify tab again now on the contact record. We showed you it on the job. You can see it looks different for the contacts. It's the things that are relevant for our contacts. Before I want to reach out, I want to just get a sense of how much have we been talking to him, a little bit more detail on what we've been talking about. But then I got it. I know he's a Celtics fan. I know I want to reach out. So we're going to see that re-engagement campaign down here on the bottom. Amplify is recommending which of your pre-built templates you should add this person to. So I'm going to go ahead and add them to this re-engagement campaign.
One thing real quick to call out here, this is a combination of all of the activity, both from Bullhorn and also from automation, finally in one spot so you can see it. I think that's worth calling out. All right, let's open the re-engagement campaign.
All right, so for those of you familiar, there's a lot of tools out here that aren't staffing specific. Sales Loft is one you might have heard of. And what these really do are blend two paradigms. It gives you all the ability to automate your processes and follow up with all the control by the individual person. So it puts your best practices built in. They start with a template. They don't start from scratch. And the other nice thing, all of this is running on the same automation engine in the background. So you know that they won't conflict with other messages that are going on. You've got full visibility across everything that's happening in the organization. So let's go ahead and take a look at one of these. So again, this is where they go in and edit. They just tap it, they edit, we can see the message. Key thing here is this campaign was already built, but then it rewrote the entire message to be specific to this contact using AI. So it rewrote it, kind of made it hyper-personalized. And again, this is where we were talking about maybe doing this automated messaging in the background and rewriting messages before they go out, and every candidate has a different one. Again, you kind of told us like, that's cool, but that's scary. I don't really trust AI for that. I want to just double check it. So this is what we're doing. We've got full visibility, and now we can make
so
any
if you want to
changes.
modify this, we're just going to go ahead and throw the Celtics game in there as an example. To Jason's point, number one piece of feedback that we got, give the sales folks the ability to control the message. Don't just give them a template that automatically gets sent out. Have them be able to modify. This is just an example of the ability to do that.
Yep. All right, so we're gonna take one more look. Let's look at this one that has the candidate recommendation. Again, this is a staffing specific version of this tool. So we've got a few of the best practices in. So when I'm sending this message, if I wanna market a candidate, I can easily pick, so we'll pick our friend Jane. We can put Jane into the message, and it's gonna update the message to include all the key selling points. You can put a one sheet of the resume, the overview in, and it's all done to make sure that it's all perfectly branded and kind of fits your style just like you want.
Totally, nice. So you can build these campaigns, you can have multiple different templates, all with different message templates, and you can have control of this as a salesperson, which is a new thing. It's always been either one or the other, right? It's write a message directly from Bullhorn or use a marketing campaign from automation. Now it all comes together, which is great. And we end up back here on Bill's dashboard. I want to make one point before we bring up Will, which is important. For folks who use automation, you know this, we actually track how the recipients engage with the content. In this case, we can show, hey, Bill is actually engaging with that campaign that you sent. You recently clicked a website, that's a signal that you should go and actually engage Bill because he's engaging with your content. But nobody is sitting there on Bill's record waiting, hey, has Bill looked at my website, I'm gonna keep his profile up forever until he does something. Nobody's doing that, right? So we also need a top level dashboard. And we've shown you the dashboards of managing the agents on the records themselves, whether that's an Amplify dashboard on the contact or that's the entire agent funnel and pipeline on the job. There is a step above that, which you as a recruiter or a salesperson needs to see what all of your agents are doing and needs to be able to be notified when activity is happening and you are not looking at that particular record. So you can see here in the contacts to review, there's a bunch of reasons why people could be in there. Bill is in there because you recently clicked on a website. You can see under the My Open Jobs, that funnel looks exactly like the Amplify job tab. And so you can see the number of candidates that have been recommended, the number of applicants, how many have been screened, how many have been submitted, and fundamentally, how many did you place through that. And so all of that is being pulled together in a really nice top-level dashboard. So that is Bullhorn Amplify.
Here at IDR, we take AI very seriously. As a recruiter, it's always been about the people, connecting the right talent with the right opportunity. But let's be honest, at the end of the day, tedious tasks add up, and that's where AI has made the biggest difference for me.
With the Bullhorn Screening Agent, our recruiters can start the day with multiple interviews on their calendars. The candidates are screened and qualified, allowing recruiters to dive into candidate career goals and relationship building.
Bullhorn's AI assistant has saved me hours by generating publishable job descriptions. This has made managing multiple VMS accounts much easier for me.
Thanks to the screening agent, I already hit my sub goal with 2 weeks left in the month.
As an account manager, when an AI screen candidate pops up in my inbox, I can immediately review them, therefore delivering to our clients quicker.
Bullhorn Screening Agent allows me to get to know my candidates from beyond what's on their resume.
Do you think they'll let me borrow the screening agent to go through my dating app matches? Like, seriously, she would have had me wifed up by now.
Love that coat.
We knew he'd come out here now.
I know, yeah.
Look at that.
That's
That's nice. All right, Will, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for
joining
having me.
us. We put all of your stats up here.
Nice.
And it's some pretty impressive performance. It's
Pretty
awesome.
amazing stuff. Thank you for letting your recruiters share their experience a little bit too. I think that's kind
They're
of
the
key.
ones doing this, so.
Yeah, that's good. All right, so tell everybody what you're doing, kind of what parts of AI are you leveraging, how did you make it work? Just get us started with a basic overview.
Yeah, so we kind of got a little bit lucky. In 2018, automation started to get more important to our organization. So we kind of, I guess, lucked out with some of the data quality initiatives that have kind of, led to a pretty seamless implementation journey to some degree with AI. But we're trying to implement it throughout our entire workflow. Art said it well in his presentation. It's like once you start that, it's hard to like pull back off of it because it just does certain things better, and it's just like you're augmenting every single step of your process with the help of AI, which is really cool.
Yeah, definitely. Love that.
So there's all these promises around, AI is going to decrease spend and it's going to increase, revenue and profit substantially. And so, what have you been most excited about achieving? Because these are some pretty awesome stats. And were there any things that you were surprised by? Like, I didn't actually think it would perform that well, but it did?
Yeah, I think I went into it that way. I went into it with like more as like a cost optimization, I guess, journey. I didn't really know a lot about it. We got introduced, our first AI implementation was a screening agent, which I think is a great place to start, just like with automation. It kind of exposes a lot of your data gaps, which is really helpful. Mike Cleland had introduced us to a screening platform very early, right after ChatGPT came out. So that was like our first step. But as we started to like unleash it, you started to see trends in the numbers, right? You started to see an uptick in submissions per recruiter, faster ramp time, and things like that. So you started to kind of, that really wasn't what I was going for. It was, everything was lean after COVID. We were cutting back. I was just trying to stay afloat with a smaller staff. And then you kind of started to see the numbers creep up like this.
Yeah. Way cooler to grow the top line than decrease the bottom line,
absolutely.
Right?
You can only cut so much.
Definitely. All right, so you've got great outcomes. There was a step in between there though, right? I know we talk about this, but you don't just turn these things on and everybody in your company just changes and accepts them with open arms, right? Like, how do you make these things work? How do you kind of put it into the business?
Well, I have a tendency to do that sometimes, so my team hates me for that, but I'll slow it down usually. But yeah, AI is, it depends on where you're inserting into that workflow, right? I believe that the staffing workflow is pretty universal. To some degree, you're trying to get information into your system, you're trying to go through the applicants, screen them, submit them, interview prep, hire, bill, you're off to pay commissions and all that good stuff. So, but if you disrupt one of those have been in place for so long, that's where the change management really comes in. Luckily, I've got a great team. They help me a ton with that. Everyone in organization's organic, which has helped those transitions because they believe in what we're telling them, but it's still difficult. And then some of them is a lot easier. You just turn on like turning on a switch or implementing any other tech. But it is a little bit of a different journey. And I think for us, my involvement all the way at the top down, right? Really getting involved in the trenches with different committees and all kinds of stuff to really drive that adoption is really important because I'm a big believer in it.
So you mentioned commissions. Can we double click on that?
Yeah.
Just talk a little bit about like what kind of incentives you needed to either put in place or change or remove in order to get that level of adoption?
Yeah, and I get asked this question a lot. We made a conscious decision not to charge our staff for some of these tools. When we went into these implementations, we thought it was going to be a lot more costly, I guess, over time, which we were ready to make that investment as we were scaling up because we were sold on AI. But what we found is that there's a lot of easier ways to do things with AI, and it simplifies your tech stack, which is kind of confusing before you go down that journey. Your infrastructure becomes very simple. And it makes sense. It's clear because you're doing everything to move into that landscape or into that agentic architecture, as Lauren calls it sometimes. So I just think that it simplifies it. In terms of the actual money that people are making, I actually went more to like my middle managers, and I think that that's a later phase of adoption. But when you start getting to like the accountability side of things, that's really where it starts, the people driving that.
Yep. Speaking of challenges, what were the biggest things that you were not anticipating?
At the very first step, I guess, is your systems are used to taking it. We're around 100 recruiters, so I don't know, maybe you're going through 1,000, maybe 2,000 pre-screens in a month. And, with AI, you start going through, 15, 20,000 in a week. And pretty close to the same level of intake quality, in some cases better, right? There's no emotions. It's very transactional. You get the questions answered and you store it in your system. But that threw me off a little bit, right? You're not used to consuming that much information. And that's a good problem to have, but a lot of companies I speak with they don't know what to do with that. They don't know what to do with those kind of B and C candidates maybe that you could leverage in a lot of different places. And so that threw me for a loop at first.
So have you found an outlet for these people, or are they?
Yeah, automation. You got to leverage automation. That's what I love about the Bullhorn tech stack is it's the ecosystem's kind of coming full circle, right? You guys are investing well and doing some of the things that, typically you're leveraging other systems, other platforms to accomplish the same goal. But when you get them all talking to each other, you really have journeys to really help your customers meet them where they're at. That's what I think you guys came up with that tagline, like meet the candidates where they're at. Like now that's a reality. Doing pre-screen sitting on your couch at 1 a.m. and not having a recruiter is a really cool thing. And I've fallen in love with it so much because I ran a desk for so long. I was a recruiter, sales rep in the trenches. I'm not a tech guy. I've somehow fallen into that over time. But I know what that's like going from a one-man person to a 100-person org, right? Like literally, like go all the way from the bottom up. And you're grinding, man. You're 7 days a week. It's late at night. These tools you're seeing better work-life balance. Gen Zs, I think they've cracked the code on that. But if they are going to work 40 hours, they need to be very productive during those 40 hours. And these tools allow you to accomplish things like that. We're actually trying to get them to work 40 hours. It's like 37. We guarantee the 40.
You got TikToks to
Yeah. I mean, you got to
start paying overtime at 30.
Yeah.
I think we have time for one more. So you mentioned this, the Bullhorn ecosystem and the platform. And I think what's interesting is that you were doing a whole bunch of this stuff before Bullhorn even had those tools, right? So you've been on the cutting edge for a long time. And now you're starting to say, okay, there's a benefit of putting all that stuff on one platform and not having to manage. I think Art was talking about it too. I don't want to manage all these different point solutions and the complexity of those integrations and all that stuff. If you could just sort of elaborate on how you got there and how you're thinking about that move to standardize.
Yeah, I think when you start taking when you start looking at your infrastructure and you're not buying random things to, just like, oh, well, we got AI or we got, automation, or when you start thinking of it a little bit more holistically and, sit down, put a plan together, map it out, you can kind of see what's valuable and what's not. And I think that that's a great first step altogether. And then you kind of just evaluate, well, does my system do this or does it not? And usually if it doesn't, I call them and like, dude, this doesn't do this. So we need to fix that. But, anytime you can keep the same processes and the same UI and the same interfaces, the color scheme, I know that sounds silly, but it's important to your users. It becomes comfortable. And everything kind of works seamlessly. I mean, and in my opinion, that's a really important aspect from a training standpoint. You've got all these different tools out there. When we used to train people, when we'd hire them, there'd be 8 different job boards, all these systems, you go to all these different places. Now, it's just one place. It's just like, and then when you kind of mature that, you're even automating the AI on its own, right? You're kind of putting it on steroids too, which is where it starts to get really powerful.
Nice, that's awesome. So, Will has an AI spotlight tomorrow. I think it's at 3 o'clock, or maybe it's at 3:45.
It was supposed to be up.
It's supposed to be 3:45.
It's in the agenda
I think
for
it's
sure.
3:45.
Yes, it's been the story of our last 45 minutes, so it's all good. Don't worry about it. But look, we're super excited for Amplify. Really thank you to Will for coming and joining us today. Like I said, we have the developers. I want to point out the developers that are working on Amplify. 5 rows back, maybe over there. You can go talk to them and ask them all your questions. Everything is on display at the hub. Oh, come on, guys. Give them a hand.
There they are.
Give them a hand. There we go. It's really great. All right, so thank you. Hope you all enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much.